The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched up into darkness. Its walls sparkled like diamonds, and floating platforms held representatives from hundreds of alien species. The room was usually full of noise, but today it was quiet. Everyone watched the human standing at the speaking platform. Ambassador Tadwan took a deep breath. His gray hair and lined face showed his years of service, but his back was straight and his eyes were sharp. He had spent 15 years in this chamber, trying to win fair treatment for Earth. Today would be his last day here. "Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council," he said, his voice clear and strong. "For 15 years, humanity has tried to work with you. We have followed your rules. We have shared our discoveries. We have been patient." He paused, looking around the chamber. That patience has run out. Behind him, Deputy Ambassador Hanbyle stood quietly. She remembered her first day in the council 5 years ago. She had been so hopeful then, thinking that aliens and humans could work together. Now she knew better. Her hand tightened on the data pad she was holding. Military attaché Jiho stood on Taiwan's other side. His uniform was perfectly neat, but his eyes were watching everything. He noticed how the alien representatives shifted uneasily in their seats. They knew something was different today. Taiwan held up a small device, his universal translator. "We have discovered your secret plan," he said. "Operation Guardian Wall. You meant to trap us in our own solar system, to keep us weak, to steal our technology while pretending to be our friends." Loud voices broke out across the chamber. Some aliens stood up, shouting denials. Others sat very still, their strange faces showing worry or fear. "Lies," shouted Representative Krell from the upper platforms. His blue scales flashed angrily. "We have treated humans fairly." Hanbyle stepped forward. She pressed a button on her data pad, and the air filled with floating screens. Each one showed messages, plans, and secret meetings, all the proof of the Council's plot against Earth. She had spent months gathering this evidence, working with her team to hack into the Council's most secure files. "These records show the truth," she said. "You planned to put economic sanctions on Earth. You wanted to break our trade agreements one by one. You even tried to sabotage our new faster-than-light drive project." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives were demanding to see the evidence more closely. Others were trying to leave the chamber. Security drones buzzed through the air, their lights flashing red. Jiho watched it all with a slight smile. He had helped plan this moment for years. While the Council thought they were containing humanity, humans had been preparing. They had built secret backup systems. They had made their technology essential to Council operations. They had created a trap of their own. Taiwan raised his hand, and somehow his calm presence cut through the noise. The chamber grew quiet again. "We are not here to argue," he said. "We are here to inform you of our decision. As of today, Earth withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Council." He took off his translator and placed it carefully on the podium. The sound it made in the silence was very small, but it seemed to echo through the chamber. Back on Earth, in the Orbital Command Center, Security Chief Yoon, he watched the meeting through a secure feed. Her control room was full of screens showing different parts of Earth's space defense network. She checked the time and nodded to her team. Everything was ready. Young analyst Do-hyun sat at his station, his fingers moving quickly over his keyboard. He had predicted this moment 3 years ago, when he first noticed patterns in Council behavior. Now he was helping to coordinate humanity's response. "All stations report ready," he said to Yoon-hee. "Backup systems are in place. Emergency protocols are set." Yoon-hee smiled. "Good," she said. "Start the countdown." In the council chamber, Taiwan was finishing his speech. "Humanity will no longer accept second-class status," he said. "We will not be controlled. We will not be contained." Hanbyle and Jiho moved to stand beside him. Together, they turned their backs on the council and began walking toward the exit. The symbolism was clear to everyone watching. "You cannot leave," shouted one of the council leaders, his tentacles waving in agitation. The consequences. No, Ta-1 interrupted, not turning around. You do not understand. The consequences are not for us to face. They are for you. As if his words were a signal, things began to happen. The floating platforms jerked and swayed. The chamber's perfect lighting flickered. Emergency alarms began to sound throughout the council building. What's happening? Demanded another council member. What have you done? Nothing, said Hanbidal, looking back over her shoulder. We have simply stopped doing things. You wanted to contain us, to control us. Well, now you will see how much you have come to depend on us. The three humans walked out of the chamber. Behind them, they could hear the growing sounds of panic as more systems began to fail. The Council's quantum communication networks, largely maintained by human engineers, were going dark. The AI systems that controlled trade routes were shutting down. The security systems were resetting to basic functions. In orbital command, Do-hyun watched as his predictions came true. Council space stations are reporting critical failures, he said. Their backup systems are not responding as expected. Because they're used to depending on our tech to fix everything, said Yoon-hee. She watched as more and more distress signals appeared on her screens. They forgot how to solve problems without us. The Council had spent 15 years trying to keep humanity contained. They had worried about human technology advancing too quickly. They had tried to control human expansion into space. But in doing so, they had made a terrible mistake. They had let humanity become essential to their operations. Now they would learn what it meant to lose that support. Ta-1, Hanbidal, and Ji-ho boarded their ship. As they lifted off from the council station, they could see other human ships departing as well. 15 years of diplomacy were ending, but something new was beginning. Do you think they'll try to stop us? Asked Hanbidal, watching the council ships in orbit. They can't, said Ji-ho. Not anymore. We made sure of that. Taiwan looked out at the stars. We gave them every chance to treat us as equals, he said. Now they will learn that humanity does not need their permission to take its place among the stars. Their ship turned toward Earth, its engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. Behind them, the Council's perfect order was already beginning to crack. The time of human patience was over. The time of human independence had begun. On Earth, millions of people watched their screens as the news spread. Humanity had withdrawn from the Galactic Council. There would be challenges ahead, but there was also hope. For the first time in 15 years, humanity would make its own path. In orbital command, Yoon-hee sent out the coded signal that would start the next phase of their plan. Across the galaxy, human workers began quiet evacuations from Council spaces. Automated systems were switched to countdown protocols. The Council was about to learn just how much they had underestimated humanity. It's really happening, said Do-hyun, watching the data flow across his screens. Everything we planned for. Yes, said Yoon-hee. And this is just the beginning. In the depths of space, Taiwan's ship continued its journey home. The ambassador looked at the data pad Hanbidal had given him, showing the first reports of chaos spreading through Council space. He felt no joy in their distress, but he knew this had been necessary. Sometimes the only way forward was to break with the past completely. Send the message to all human settlements, he told Hanbidal. Tell them it's time to activate protocol independence. As the message went out, lights began to go dark across Council space. The perfect order they had maintained for centuries was falling apart. And humanity, finally free of their restrictions, was ready to show the galaxy what they could really do. The breaking point had come. There would be no going back. The morning after humanity's departure from the Galactic Council brought chaos. Security Chief Yoon-hee stood in Earth's orbital command center, watching as emergency signals lit up her screens like stars. She had known this would happen, but seeing it was different. Another trading station has lost power, reported Do-hyun from his desk. The young analyst's predictions were coming true faster than even he had expected. That's the 15th one in the last hour. Yoon-hee nodded, her face serious. How are our systems holding up? Perfect, said Do-hyun with a small smile. Everything we built to replace the Council's technology is working just as planned. Earth's trade networks are running smoothly on our own systems. Across the galaxy, Council space stations were discovering how much they had relied on human technology. The quantum communication networks, which humans had helped build and maintain, were failing one by one. Trade routes managed by human-made AI systems went dark. Emergency calls filled the space between stars. On the mining colony of New Haven, human workers were quietly leaving their posts. Site manager Kang Ho watched as the last transport ship prepared for takeoff. He had spent 10 years building this colony into one of the Council's most productive facilities. Now he was letting it die. All automated systems are set to countdown mode, reported his assistant, Bao. The mining robots will keep working for exactly 30 days. After that, he shrugged, the Council would have to figure it out for themselves. Kang Ho looked at the dark rocks and busy machines one last time. Let's go home, he said. The Council had never understood how much they needed humans. They had been afraid of human technology advancing too quickly, but they had still used it. They had wanted to control humans, but they had become dependent on them instead. Back in the Council's main chamber, the alien representatives were facing their first real crisis in centuries. The perfect order they had maintained for so long was falling apart. How could this happen? Demanded Representative Krell, his blue scales now dull with stress. How could we let ourselves become so dependent on human systems? We had no choice, said another representative, her crystalline form flickering with worried lights. Their technology worked better than ours. It was more efficient, more reliable. We needed it to keep up with the growing demands of our civilization. In Earth's orbit, Ambassador Taiwan's ship docked at the new Human Space Command Station. The station had been built in secret, using technology the Council didn't know humans had developed. It was ready to become the center of humanity's independent space operations. Han Byul met him at the airlock, her datapad showing more reports of systems failing across Council space. The evacuation is proceeding as planned, she said. 90% of human workers have already left Council territories. And the rest? Asked Taiwan. They'll be out within 24 hours, said military attaché Jaiho, joining them. Our ships are making sure of it. They walked to the station's command center, where large windows showed Earth floating below them. The planet looked peaceful from here, but everyone knew they were in the middle of a huge change. The Council has sent 16 messages asking us to return to negotiations, said Han Byul. They're offering better terms. Too late, said Taiwan quietly. They had 15 years to treat us as equals. Now they can learn to live without us. In the station's technology center, Chief Engineer Subin was working with her team to strengthen Earth's new independent systems. They had planned for this moment for years, building backup networks and improving human technology far beyond what the Council thought possible. All communication systems are running on our quantum network now, she reported when Taiwan visited. The Council can't listen in or interfere. We're truly independent. Taiwan looked at the complex systems his people had created. They never believed we could do this, he said. They thought they needed to control us to keep us from becoming too powerful. They didn't realize we already were. In Council space, the problems were getting worse. Trade ships were stuck in ports because the AI systems that managed traffic were down. Space stations were running on emergency power because their main systems wouldn't work without human maintenance. Even the Council's famous libraries were having trouble because their search systems had been designed by humans. We need to get some of them back, said one Council leader desperately. Just a few human engineers. We'll pay anything. But humanity wasn't interested in helping anymore. They had tried for 15 years to be partners with the Council. Now it was time for something new. On Earth, people watched the news with mixed feelings. Some were worried about being alone in the galaxy. Others were excited about the chance to develop without Council restrictions. But everyone knew things would never be the same. In orbital command, Yoon-hee received a special message from one of her border stations. Council ships approaching Earth space, reported the station commander. They're asking for emergency docking. Say they have critical system failures. Tell them no, said Yoon-hee firmly. They chose this when they tried to contain us. Now they can handle their own problems. The council ships turned away, their systems barely working well enough to get them home. More would come in the days ahead, all asking for help. All would be turned away. Do-hyun's screen showed more and more systems failing across council space. It's spreading faster than we predicted, he said. The council really did build everything around our technology. Now they can't function without it. They thought they were being clever, said Yoon-hee, using our technology while trying to keep us weak. They never thought we would just walk away. In space stations and on planets across the galaxy, other alien species were watching what happened. Many of them had also felt the Council's control. They had also been told to stay small, to stay quiet, to follow the Council's rules. Now they saw what happened when someone finally said no. The Council's economy is starting to crash, reported Han Byul during a meeting with Earth's leaders. Without our systems managing their trade routes, everything is slowing down. Some sectors are already talking about breaking away from Council control. Good, said Jai-ho. Let them see that the Council isn't as powerful as they thought. Taiwan looked at the reports of chaos spreading through Council space. Part of him felt sad about the suffering this would cause. But he remembered all the times the Council had dismissed human concerns, all the times they had tried to hold humanity back. This was necessary. Send out the announcement to all human colonies, he said. As of today, we are officially establishing the independent human sphere. We will govern ourselves, trade with who we choose, and expand as we see fit. The message went out across space. On every human world, people celebrated their new freedom. The Council had tried to keep humanity small and controlled. Instead, they had forced humanity to become stronger, more independent, and more advanced than anyone had expected. In his private office, Taiwan looked at a small hologram of the galaxy. 15 years ago, he had stood before the Council for the first time, hoping to build friendship between humans and aliens. Now he was helping to break that relationship apart. Do you think they'll ever understand why we did this? Asked Han Byul, joining him. Maybe, said Taiwan, when they realize that trying to control others only makes them stronger. When they learn that true cooperation can't be forced. The silent storm of humanity's departure continued to spread through Council space. Systems failed, trade stopped, and the perfect order of centuries began to crack. The Council was learning a hard lesson. Sometimes the quietest actions have the loudest effects. And humanity was just getting started. 3 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The effects of their departure had spread like waves through the galaxy, touching every world and every species. Now those waves were turning into a storm that threatened to tear the Council apart. Trade Minister Sang-min stood before a group of angry alien representatives. They had gathered in a meeting room on Space Station Terra-1, just outside Earth's solar system. The room was simple compared to the Grand Council chambers, but it felt more honest somehow. My people have lost billions in trade, said a tall alien with silver fur. Our economy is falling apart without the human transport systems. The medical stations in my sector are failing. Added another representative, her scales changing color with distress. We relied on human maintenance crews. Now nothing works properly. Sang-min listened to their complaints. He had once worked with these same aliens to build trade routes across the galaxy. Now he was helping them understand why everything had changed. The Council had 15 years to treat humans as equals, he explained. Instead, they tried to contain us, to control us. This is the result. In Earth's orbital command center, Security Chief Yoon, he watched the meeting through secure cameras. Her screen showed other important things too. The new defense grid protecting Earth's solar system, the movements of Council ships, and the status of human colonies across space. Another group of Council ships approaching, reported Do-hyun from his station. The young analyst hadn't slept much in the past 3 months, but his eyes were bright with excitement. They're asking to enter our space. Say they have important messages for our leaders. The same as yesterday, said Yoon-hee. And the day before that. She sent the standard response. No unauthorized entry into human space. The Council ships turned away, just like all the others. On the edges of human space, Lieutenant Yoon-ji commanded a patrol of ships guarding the border. Her fleet was small but powerful, using technology that the Council had never seen before. Humans had been preparing for this moment for years. Council diplomatic vessel requesting emergency docking, reported one of her officers. They say they have new offers from the Council leadership. Yoon-ji shook her head. Standard response, she ordered. No entry without proper authorization. They can send their messages through official channels. The Council ship hung in space for a while, its lights blinking in frustration. Then it turned away, like all the others. Yoon-ji watched it go, remembering how the Council used to treat human ships the same way. Things had changed. In the new Human Defense Force headquarters, Director Min Seo was meeting with her team. They were discussing the latest reports from across the galaxy. The Council was trying everything to fix their failing systems, but nothing worked. They've tried copying our technology, reported one officer, but they don't understand how it works. Their copies keep failing. Min Seo nodded. Of course they fail, she said. They never realized that our technology worked because we kept improving it. They just wanted to use it without understanding it. On a distant mining world, the last human workers had left 3 months ago. The automated systems they left behind had run perfectly for 30 days, just as planned. Then they had shut down one by one. Now the mines were silent, the machinery dead. Council engineers had tried to restart the systems, but they couldn't understand the complex programming that made everything work together. They had always let humans handle that part. Now they were learning how much they didn't know. Back on Earth, Taiwan was meeting with the United Earth Council. The room was filled with leaders from all parts of human space. They were discussing the latest news from Council territories. The Galactic Council is splitting apart, reported Han Byul, showing images on the big screen. Some sectors want to break away completely. Others are demanding reform. The old order is failing. Good, said Jai-ho. They need to understand that they can't control everyone forever. Change was always going to come. We just made it happen faster. In Council space, the crisis was getting worse. Without human technology managing their systems, everything was slowing down. Ships got lost in space because navigation computers failed. Space stations ran on emergency power because their main systems wouldn't work. Even simple things like food delivery became difficult because the automated systems weren't working. Some Council members wanted to use force to make humans help them, but they knew that wouldn't work. Human ships were too advanced now, their weapons too powerful. The Council had tried to keep humans weak, but they have failed. We have to offer them something, said one Council leader desperately. Better trading rights, more territory, anything they want. But it was too late for that. Humanity had moved beyond needing the Council's permission. They were building their own future now. In her lab on Earth, Chief Scientist Subin was working on something that would change everything again. Her team had made a breakthrough in faster-than-light travel, something the Council had said was impossible. The tests are all positive, she told Taiwan when he visited. Our new drive system works better than anything the Council has. We can go further, faster, and safer than they ever could. Taiwan smiled. They always thought they needed to protect us from advancing too quickly, he said. They never understood that trying to hold us back only made us try harder. The news of human advancement spread through the galaxy. More aliens began questioning the Council's authority. If they had been wrong about humans, what else were they wrong about? Trade Minister Sang-min was busy meeting with more representatives from Council worlds. They all wanted the same thing: A way to work with humans directly, without the Council controlling everything. We can make new agreements, Sangmin told them. But they must be fair, equal, no more trying to control each other. On her border patrol, Lieutenant Yunji noticed something changing. Fewer Council ships were trying to enter human space now. Instead, independent traders were coming, asking to make their own deals with Earth. They're learning, she told her crew. The galaxy is changing. The Council's power is breaking down, and something new is taking its place. In orbital command, Du Hyun's predictions were coming true faster than ever. The Council can't hold together much longer, he told Yoon-hee. Too many worlds want to leave. Too many species are tired of being controlled. Yoon-hee looked at her screens, watching the patterns of ships and signals across space. Humans didn't just leave the Council, she said. We showed everyone else they could leave too. The ripples of humanity's departure were still spreading. Every day brought news of more changes in Council space, more systems failing, more worlds demanding freedom, more species looking to Earth as an example. Taiwan stood at the window of his office, looking out at the stars. 15 years ago, the Council had thought they could control humanity's growth. Instead, they had forced humanity to grow stronger in secret. Now everyone was seeing the results. Do you think they understand yet? Asked Hanbyul, joining him at the window. Some do, said Taiwan. The smarter ones. They see that everything is changing, and they can't stop it. The galaxy was entering a new age. The Council's perfect order was breaking down, replaced by something more chaotic but more free. And humanity, no longer bound by Council rules, was ready to help shape that new age. But only if others were ready to treat them as equals. 1 year had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy had changed more in that 1 year than it had in the previous 100 years. The Council, once powerful and united, had split into 3 distinct groups. Councillor Haijin led the reformist faction. She stood in what remained of the Grand Council chamber, looking at the empty seats where human representatives used to sit. The chamber wasn't as bright as it used to be. Many of its systems still didn't work properly without human maintenance. We cannot continue as we are, she told the other council members. The old ways have failed. We must change, or we will lose everything. Many council members nodded in agreement. The past year had taught them hard lessons about trying to control other species, but some still resisted change. They called themselves the traditionalists, and they wanted to keep the Council's old powers. We have ruled the galaxy for centuries, said their leader, his metallic skin gleaming dully. We cannot let one species destroy everything we built. The third group, the neutrals, tried to keep peace between the other two. But everyone knew things could not stay as they were. Too much had changed. On Earth, President Jinwoo stood before the United Earth Parliament. The Great Hall was filled with leaders from every human colony and settlement. They had gathered to hear about humanity's progress since leaving the Council. 1 year ago, we chose independence, said Jinwoo, his voice clear and strong. Many thought we would fail. They thought we needed the Council's support to survive. He smiled. They were wrong. Behind him, large screens showed images from across human space, new colonies growing on distant worlds, trade ships moving along safe routes protected by human ships, research stations making discoveries that the Council had said were impossible. In her laboratory, Chief Scientist Su Bin was working on the project that would change everything again. Her team had created a new kind of faster-than-light drive. It was safer, faster, and more efficient than anything the Council had. The final tests are complete, she told her team, their faces glowing with pride. The new drive works perfectly. We can travel further than ever before. This was exactly what the Council had feared. Humans advancing too quickly, developing technology the Council couldn't control. But now it didn't matter what the Council thought. Humanity was free to grow at its own pace. Security Chief Yoon. He watched from orbital command as the first ships with the new drive systems left Earth. Her screen showed hundreds of ships moving through space, all controlled by human systems that worked better than ever. "Remember when they tried to limit how many ships we could have?" asked Do-hyun, looking up from his station. "Now we have more ships than they ever allowed, and better ones too." Yoon-hee nodded. The Council's attempts to control humanity had backfired completely. Instead of keeping humans weak, they had forced them to become stronger in secret. On the borders of human space, Lieutenant Yeon-ji's patrol fleet had grown larger. Her ships protected human territories and trade routes, making sure no one could threaten Earth's independence. But lately, her job had changed. Another group of independent traders requesting permission to enter human space reported one of her officers. They want to establish direct trade agreements. This happened more often now. Many alien species had realized that working with humans directly was better than staying under Council control. Every week, more ships came asking to trade. Trade Minister Sang-min was very busy these days. He met with representatives from many worlds, making new agreements that benefited everyone equally. The old Council trade rules were gone, replaced by fairer deals. "This is what we wanted all along," he told his staff. "Equal partnerships, fair trade, the chance to work together without someone controlling everything." Military attaché Jae-ho had been watching the Council's military movements all year. At first, some Council members had talked about using force to make humans return, but they had quickly realized that wouldn't work. "They finally understand that we're stronger than they thought," he told Taiwan during a meeting. "Now they're worried about other species following our example." He was right to be worried. Already, 3 other species had declared their independence from the Council. They had seen how humans succeeded and wanted the same freedom. More would likely follow. Ambassador Taiwan spent a lot of time meeting with representatives from these newly independent species. They all wanted to know how humans had managed to break free from Council control. "The secret was preparation," he told them. "We spent years getting ready, building our own systems, developing our own technology. When the time came to leave, we were ready." Han Byul worked with him, helping to build new relationships with other species. It was different from her old job as deputy ambassador to the Council. Now she was helping to create something new, something better. "The Council thought controlling everyone was the only way to keep peace," she said. "But real peace comes from treating each other as equals." In her border fleet, Yeon-ji noticed another change. Council ships stopped trying to enter human space without permission. Instead, they sent proper requests through official channels. They were finally learning to respect human independence. "They're learning," she told her crew. "Slowly, but they're learning." Back in the Council chamber, Councillor Hai-jin and her reformists finally gained enough support to make real changes. They voted to end many of the Council's controlling policies. Species would have more freedom to develop at their own pace. "We should have done this years ago," she told her supporters. "We thought control brought stability. Instead, it brought resentment and rebellion." The news reached Earth quickly. Taiwan was in his office when the message came. He read it carefully, then called for a meeting with Earth's leaders. "The Council wants to start new negotiations," he told them. "Not to bring us back under their control, but to establish new relationships as equals." President Jin-woo considered this carefully. "Are they serious this time?" he asked. "I think so," said Taiwan. "They've learned that they can't control us. Now they want to work with us instead." The leaders discussed this for a long time. They had worked hard for their independence. They wouldn't give it up easily. But working with others as equals had always been their goal. "We'll meet with them," Jin-woo decided. "But on our terms, not theirs. And here on Earth, not in their chamber." When the Council representatives arrived on Earth, things were very different from before. They came as guests, not rulers. They saw humanity's achievements with their own eyes, the advanced technology, the growing colonies, the strong fleet. "We were wrong about humans," Hai-jin admitted during the first meeting. "We thought we needed to control your growth. Instead, we should have worked with you as partners. Taiwan looked at Hanbiel and smiled. After all their years of trying to make the council understand, it had finally happened. But it had only happened because humans had been strong enough to walk away. We are ready to work together, he told the council representatives. But as equals. No more attempts at control. No more restrictions, just honest cooperation between independent species. As the meeting ended, Taiwan looked out at the stars through the window. The galaxy was changing. The council's perfect order was being replaced by something new, something less controlled but more fair. And humanity, finally free to follow its own path, would help shape that new future, not as servants or subjects, but as equals among the stars.